This is my review of Jujutsu Kaisen, episode 15. Finally doing one of these in under a week. This is the first episode of the tournament arc, I guess is what it would be considered, with shonen cliches and stuff. What are they calling it? The Jujutsu Sister Schools event or something. I can't remember what the fuck it's called. The episode opens at pretty much the beginning of the first event. Gojo's sitting there announcing that it's begun, and the rules need announced, and he hands it over to the shrine maiden. I think her name was Utime or something to that effect. I don't know, I'm sure I'll get it eventually. She kind of mumbles and isn't sure what she's talking about, can't quite get the rules out. And so Gojo ends up interrupting her, saying she's taking too long, and so he just kind of starts it, and she kind of goes at him, and you see a little more of their dynamic, where she's just kind of awkward, and he's just Gojo, and she doesn't really like Gojo as a personality trait, so, yeah. So the teams start moving, and the blonde girl with a broom kind of flies up into the air like a witch. She can ride her broom like a witch, so I thought that was pretty cool. It's different for an anime, or maybe it's not. Or I've not watched too many anime with people who ride brooms. I think Botan did in Yu Yu Hakusho, or at least she did in the opening. I don't watch Little Witch Academia and Burn the Witch. They certainly don't. So I don't know. I don't think it's a big thing in anime for people to ride brooms. But she's got I think she has a fun personality as a character, and I'm curious what her abilities are beyond flying with the broom. I think I'll enjoy her as a character. Not sure yet though entirely. At the beginning, Toto isn't with them, so it's clear he's just going to be kind of off on his own like he said he was going to. But they kind of know, they can expect what he's going to do, so they're just playing around it. In contrast, the Tokyo team is splitting up. That's Fushiguro, Itadori, Maki, Nobara, Panda, and Mote, was that his name? They're all splitting up. Or, well, they say their plan is to split up, and they signify there's going to be a time. So right now they're all running together. Fushiguro sends out his Shikigami, but they're actually useful here because their one thing that they can do, which is surveillance, is actually going to work out. They don't have to fight, so the fact that they're borderline useless in a fight doesn't matter now. Then a spider curse comes out from a tree, and it says, "Where are you going?" Which I thought was weird, because once again, going back to the beginning of the series, I thought the whole, like, curses talking thing was to show that they were at one time people. And Gojo even mentions when he first runs into Jogo that them having complex speech to be able to have conversations and string together sentences is unusual. So them asking questions should be as well. And that's why I theorized they would be humans, and we find out that they were. They were humans that were mutated into curses by Mihito. So this one talking is weird. I don't know if the mangaka forgot that was the thing, and just thought it was normal to have them ask questions, or I don't know. I think that's probably what happened is Gege forgot that normal curses couldn't talk, because the one Nobara initially kills in her episode doesn't talk. Neither of the ones she fights actually talk. A lot of curses in those early episodes didn't. Only a few did. And that was what seemed really weird. That's what kind of tipped me off to that they were probably people one time. At any rate, Zenin Monkey tries to run forward to attack it. But the Shikigami dog, I think it's just called Black Dog, it looks over and signals to Fushiguro, and Fushiguro tells her to stop, and then Todo sends an air blast from, I guess, a punch to the spider and blows it away. And then he flies out. And he says that it's good they're all there, and he wants them all to attack him at the same time, because clearly he believes in his own strength and thinks he's stronger than them and wants an entertaining fight. But immediately, Itadori dashes ahead of everybody, jumps in the air, grabs Todo's face, and slams his knee into him. And then Maki gives a signal for them all to split up. Todo breaks free from Itadori's attack, and he doesn't really seem affected by it at all. He's certainly not injured. And I think we cut to the opening. I didn't really write it down, but I'm pretty sure that was the end of that first bit. I remarked that it's strange there are so few students, because you'd think there would be a lot more in the there's clearly a big organization here within the Jujutsu stuff. So I guess I expected the school of students to be a proper school with lots of people. Obviously, they're not all going to be high-level sorcerers, but they'd all have different positions. Ichiji, the dude who was the assistant for Gojo, he seems like he has curse abilities, but he's not a proper sorcerer. He doesn't go out and fight the way these guys are. So I figured we'd see a bunch of non-combatant type people, right? So I just think that's strange that there's just not that many. That's why I thought Miwa would be originally. Is she'd be a non-combatant assistant type of a student. We cut back to them making the plan to split up. They expected, obviously, Todo to attack them immediately, because that's what he's going to do. It's pretty obvious. Their initial plan was to have someone fight him and stay behind who could handle him, but since Itadori's joined them, and they all know their powers, they just plan to have him do it. Since they don't really know his powers, they can't restructure their plan around him, so just having him take Todo allows them to keep their plan the way it was. But they have very little confidence they can defeat Todo. But Itadori obviously believes he can. He thinks he'll do more than just distract him. We cut back to Todo and Itadori. Todo was unaffected by the attack. Itadori remarks on that. And we get a nice, wide shot of Todo, and it really shows off how big his muscles are and stuff. I remarked that he's very reminiscent of, the over-the-top 80s, 90s super muscular guys, with Baki or Fist of the North Star or Dragon Ball. Even Yu Yu Hakusho at times, just those, and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, obviously, those just giant, fucking, massive, overly muscular dudes. That's what Todo looks like, and I think that's probably the point. I'm not saying it's a negative, I think it's the point. So Todo goes to punch Itadori, the spider curse gets in his way and starts asking him again where he's going. He punches through the spider and hits Itadori. Itadori flies into a tree, and he remarks that his arm should have been ripped off, and if the spider hadn't been there, he would have taken a lot more damage than he did. Which to me implies that there was a technique with that attack, but the technique got used on the spider, and then just his fist hit Itadori, is what I interpreted from that. Because he blasted right through the spider. I can't believe the spider would have slowed his fist down really at all. And he really can't get up. He's shaking, and he's just kind of moving his limbs, but he's clearly just out of sorts. And then Todo just walks up and starts stomping on his face. And eventually we just see blood splattering by his hand, and Itadori's hand isn't moving. And Todo kind of says, "Are you out already? I have to figure out who else I'm going to attack." He starts walking away, believing Itadori's unconscious. And the fact he's leaving them there unconscious shows us that Todo really has no interest in killing him. He's just doing his own thing. but Itadori's like hand moves or something, and Todo reacts to it, and Itadori gets up because obviously he's still awake and he can still fight. He says, your attack could have made me dumber than I am, and then Todo remarks that Takada likes, or says something like, guys being dumb is just fine, or something. And Itadori says that he doesn't know anything about idols, and then Todo says that the fact that he knows that she's an idol means he does know about her and about idols. I don't know. Toto's weird with stuff like that. He asks him what kind of woman Itadori's into, and he obviously answers the same thing Toto would. And then Todo has just a weird fantasy where he and Itadori are friends in high school. And it's so fucking bizarre. And he's going to ask Takada out, and she turns his approach down, saying that she's in love with someone else. The art in this scene is really soft and vibrant, and there's like a filter over it, making it look like it's a fucking romance movie. It's just a weird scene. I don't dislike it. And I think what they're going for, which is just a strong contrast to what we're seeing now. I don't know. Just a weird scene. It was funny, just weird. We cut back, the blonde girl finds Itadori and Todo and tells them where to go, so they're approaching him now. Mai's the first one to arrive. She begins shooting her gun at Itadori. He's dodging the bullets, which he shouldn't be able to do. Miwa is next, and as he's running toward her, she says some kind of technique, and she creates a something domain. It's not a domain expansion, it's something domain. And essentially she's going to strike and hit everything in the circle, I guess. But Itadori just jumps over her attack, and she's shocked that he had time to jump, because even though she reacted, she still attacked really fast. And then the robot arrives, and he's aiming a blast, and then Itadori finally realizes they're trying to kill him. Komo's there with a bow, and then we see a couple hands clap together, and then Komo and Itadori have traded places. And Kamo remarks that this is Todo's power. Todo threatens all of them and says he'll kill them all if they don't leave, him and Itadori. They all have different reactions. Miwa's relieved, obviously, because she doesn't want to kill Itadori. And then Todo goes back to fight with Itadori as they're all leaving. The blonde girl is also kind of relieved because she didn't want to be involved in Todo's shit anyways. And then she's immediately attacked by one of Fushiguro's Shikigami. Which essentially, since she's acting as a surveillance for the Kyoto team, it removes their surveillance. So they split in two, with Mai and the robot going to help her out. And as soon as they leave, Miwa gets attacked by Maki. And then Kamo gets attacked by Fushiguro. Fushiguro asks Kamo if they plan to kill Itadori, and then come back a few moments. And we see that Tokyo was realizing that since no one was out there, and I don't fucking know, I guess Fushiguro was spying on them. He says that they're all closing in on Itadori. So they kind of put together that they're trying to kill Itadori, obviously. Or at least they're targeting him to take him out. Panda goes into this sympathetic thing with the Kyoto students, which I thought was interesting and different, because normally people would be very close-minded about this. But he basically says they haven't been around Itadori, so they don't know that he's a good person. To them, he's just a monster. So he's not defending what they're doing, but he's explaining that they don't really know what they're doing is necessarily wrong. They just see him as a ticking time bomb, really. They don't know Itadori yet. And I thought that was very different. It's a very mature and real thing to have the character do, as opposed to just being their pieces of shit trying to kill our friend. We cut back to Nishimiya. who's the blonde girl with the broom. See her crash into a tree. It looks like her broom is slightly damaged. And she kind of remarks about Fushiguro's power being electricity and how it's like messed up her joints or her limbs or whatever. I guess it basically shocked her nervous system, is my interpretation. And then immediately Nobara and Panda are right there at the bottom of the tree harassing her. I don't know how they found her. I thought that was weird, but they were there. Then we come back to Fushiguro and Mako. Right? His name is Mako. Shit. Kamo. Go back to Fushiguro fighting Kamo. And he has two fighting batons where it's basically a nightstick design where he has a little handle there and then the big stick. It's a fighting baton. He's using two of those. I thought that was really cool and worth mentioning. It's a different type of a weapon, and he's obviously attacking Kamo while Kamo's just blocking with his bow. I guess he's an archer. Because he's just had this bow the entire time. Itadori's doing well fighting Todo, but he's clearly being overpowered and outmatched by Todo. The animation here looks really good in some scenes, and then in other scenes it'll look awkward. Like there's a scene where he grabs Todo like this, and somehow he throws him on his head, but it just looks awkward as shit. Because he like grabs him from the front, and then like somehow gets him over his shoulder behind him and slams it. It just looks really bad. They're just complex scenes like that where they do not have nearly enough in-between frames. You know, like the key frame would be the grab halfway, slam on the head, and you need in-between frames to translate that. And they just not have enough of them. So it looked bad, and there was also a kick near that looked really bad. Itadori does a lot of flips, and they look really smooth. And he has a scene where he goes up on a tree, and this is a weird thing to talk about. It looks good, but it looks too slow. Like when he's rotating on the tree, he like goes up and around, and you kind of follow it, and it just is way too slow to look like it was painful to Todo. And then finally Itadori starts using the divergent fist, and he hits Todo really hard in the head with it. But Todo seems fine, and he keeps hitting him with it. And Todo is kind of in his head appraising Itadori's strength. He's, saying he's stronger than me despite being smaller. His strength is incredible. Even though he's using very little cursed energy, he's doing so much damage to me. And he's going on about how amazing Itadori's strength is. But he mentions that there's too much lag in his curse time, which I think what he means by that is between the initial punch and then the blast from his cursed energy, it takes too long. Like Nanami said that he'll hit and then he gets a secondary hit. He's saying, I think that takes too long to activate. And so Itadori needs to make it faster, which is interesting. We cut to Miwa and Maki, and they're talking, and Miwa kind of reveals that she has no interest in killing Itadori. She's just interested in winning this so that she can get moved up the sorcerer ladder. And we get an explanation that sorcerers can only move up via recommendation from other sorcerers. And the sorcerer who recommends you cannot be your mentor. So Gojo and I guess Nanami technically wouldn't be able to recommend Itadori to be moved up the ladder of a sorcerer. It has to be someone who doesn't necessarily have any real stake in it, any personal connection to him. And Maki asks Miwa why she wants to move up so fast, and she basically says she's poor and she needs money to take care of her family and stuff. And we come back to Todo and Itadori, and Todo's telling Itadori that his power basically isn't good enough. And he basically gets Itadori amped up and ready to improve his divergent fist, and it seems Todo wants to help him improve his technique. And that's the end of the episode. We get the ending, and then we get the final thing, the after credits scene. And every character is just kind of asked the question Toto asks, what kind of person are you into? And it's kind of funny. Everyone answers stuff you'd expect. Maki says she wants someone stronger than her. Mai doesn't answer. Nobara, I can't remember what she says. She says like she doesn't want to be with anyone that's poor, cheap, dirty, all kinds of shit. Nishimiya basically just says she wants someone attractive, and then Miwa goes on like a whole tangent about the kind of person she'd like to be with. It was funny, I guess. Didn't have as much to say about this episode as I thought I had. It's like a fight episode, but once again, there's just not that much fight because they just cut away from it so much. I'd like a lot more focus on the fights from this series. I hate the modern way anime do this, where you're just intercutting from scene to scene to scene to scene. Like fight here, talking here, fight here, fight here, to fight here. It's just, it gets so messy and you miss so much of what the fuck is happening. I can't stand this shit. I just want, like, let's have an episode of the fucking B cast, and then let's have an episode of Itadori versus Toto. That's all I want. I do not need this cutting back and forth bullshit. It just makes it so hard to follow and so hard to enjoy. With the exception of that, though, I thought it was a fine episode. I really enjoyed Gojo's interactions with Shrine Maiden. Like I said in my last episode, he really seems to be the connective tissue for the entire series. He brings the best out of whatever characters he's interacting with. I think the fight was interesting. I just didn't see enough of it to really get into it. As soon as I start to get into it, we cut away. As soon as I start to get into it, we cut away. You know, it's like 2 minutes of fight and we cut away, and I just can't get into it. I can't lose myself in the fight because I'm not seeing the fight, you know. Now that's it for this review. I hope the future episodes are a little more action heavy, a little less intercutting a bunch of shit.